36, we have, I believe, a controversial pick. We have Karl Schlechter. Schlechter, born in 1874 and in Vienna, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and dies in 1918, aged 44 in Budapest. So dies relatively young. Peter, I guess we still have him in for longevity plus being close to the title. What's Schlechter's fame?
Yeah, I mean, well, his main fame is that he has a tied world championship match in 1910, and let's debate that separately a bit later. He makes the number 2 rank for still only 3 months, according to Sonas, and sort of a respectable 27-64 ranking. But as you point out, his longevity is quite impressive. If you go even to the 20-year peak, he ranks as the 80th highest 20 years average rating of all time. So he was really, despite he dies relatively young, he was in the world elite for a really long time. But his main claim to fame is the 1910 World Championship match. He's playing the agreeably sort of aging Lasker, but they play a 10-game match, and Schlechter leads it 5-4. But there is a huge debate, which has never been clarified, if Schlechter needed to win the last game or not, that he needed to win by +2 in order to gain the title. And that's very crucial in many ways when you look at the game. I mean, it's not later in history it happened, this ideas of you needed to win by 2 games. I think Fischer wanted to play to 10 wins, but with a score of 9-9, he wanted to keep the title, right? And well, it sounds so wrong for modern purposes, but we even have rapid players these days. But it has not been verified whether Schlechter needed to win by +2 or not. But the reason it's very important is that while the match ends as a tie, there is a lot that could look like Schlechter badly needed to win the last game with black in order to actually gain the title, so that he could have, I mean, with normal rules, he just could have cruised to the title because he's clearly better at some point. When you check the game with modern engines and such, it's hard to say, because while contemporary sources seem to think Steinitz was in a lot of trouble, he was at specific points. But, sorry? Lasker, sorry. Of course. My bad. There was a lot of resources. It's actually a very interesting and fascinating game, and to go over it fully is too much and such. But it ends up tragically for Schlechter that probably because he needed to win, he overpresses, and then he ends up drawing the World Championship match because, well, he could just have won it, and simply he had negotiated such a bad deal that with only 10 games, he needed to win by +2 to get the title from Lasker. So I think he got very shortchanged there. I mean, he actually had 9 games against the world champion with a +1 score on 8 draws, and still he had to win the last game with black. That seems just horribly unfair. And under normal circumstances, well, Schlechter could have been the world champion in that sense. But there is still uncertainty about that. And also, Lasker did well to complicate the game and win in the end and such. And it's a horribly long and complicated game. And I mean, it must have been fascinating to follow live, although that wasn't possible at the time, basically. But I mean, that would have been a classic chess drama. You can see that Schlechter gets close to winning, then suddenly it swings in Lasker's favor, then it goes back, and then it's a draw, and then in the end, it basically becomes like game 24 from Seville, where Kasparov is kind of winning, but not fully. And then it's, can he draw or not? And everything hangs on that and such. But Schlechter took the small straw in this one. And that's why he's not higher in the list, because he could have been the world champion. But you can also argue that actually catapulted him too high from what he should have been. That's very much a debate. But I don't think this spot is terribly wrong for someone who was 20 years in the top, sometimes in the absolute top, and extremely close to the world championship, and also maybe by rules was actually somewhat cheated of the title.
Yeah, I can't really judge. He does have a bunch of these tournament victories. I don't know enough what it means. Like anyone can look it up. He wins at Munich 1900, Coburg 1904. Just reading Wikipedia here. Ostend 1906, Stockholm 1906, Vienna 1908, Prague 1908, Hamburg 1910. So it's very hard for me to put these into context and how much competition there was.
No. I agree, and also with like our previous guy was Pillsbury. He gives the impression of someone who was just the best player in the world. That's not the impression you get with Schlechter, right? I mean,
that's the feeling I have too. Obviously, this match was close, and he got a bad deal, but it's not peak Lasker, and so on. No. So we have to throw in a bit of a longevity thing, and the thing we always value very highly, getting very, very close to the title.
Yeah, I agree. It's very debatable and such. And I mean, if you actually kicked him into the honorable mentions, you could very much make a case for that. But I think I agree. He's a bit surprisingly high, but it's a defendable point of view. But yeah,
his reputation, I'm not sure if that's justified. But he's a bit of a hero of the Chicken Chess Club, no? Like, isn't he supposed to be a very drawish guy who was always happy to make a draw? Like, somehow that's what stuck in my mind when I read about him.
I'm a proud member of the club, but not really in that sense. I'm sorry to say to a German-speaking person, but I mean, I've always been a bit ruined by the name, maybe because of lack of German skills, but it sounds a bit comical to me that someone is called the Schlechter system. It sounds like a bad system, simply and such. So it's just a stupid, childish reason, but that's actually why I've had a bias towards him in some way.
Yeah, no, I was joking with Dubov, who was trying to play this Schlechter, but in a different version that Dubov was playing a better Schlechter, but it's... Yeah, that's also something that could bias us against him, that the system that bears his name is not the most impressive system, right? It's just a mediocre mix of Slav and Grunfeld.
Yeah, it had a renaissance later, someone like Kamsky and such doing it, but still, no.
But they play it to avoid theory, to get the pieces out, not because I think it's the best opening.
No, I mean, well, the pawn belongs on c5, what can we say, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, in combination with the bishop, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Schlechter. We gave you a high mark, but we're not really fans.
No, that's true.
I should read that book. I never read that Thomas Glavenitz book. So as for this game, I've seen in many books, as you mentioned. What we would need to know is who needed to win and why.
Well, it looks like the most fascinating end to a World Championship match. I mean, the players are maybe not as big as historical figures as we would like, so it doesn't really get the credit. But I mean, imagine this being game 12 between Carlsen and Caruana, right? I mean, it was Twitter would go nuts.
Wow.
And then at some point he blunders the exchange of queens, and yeah.
But we're assuming a draw wasn't serving him. Yeah, okay, now it's lost.
Yeah, now it's over. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, we need a very important piece of information, and we don't have it simply, and no one has been able to recover it. So,
all right, that's Karl Schlechter. I feel uneasy about this, but I'm also not well read enough to evaluate how good his tournament performance really was. Some numbers very much seem to be on his side. Okay. Do we leave it at that?
Yes.